Hello, screenwriters. Welcome back to another episode of Five Questions with a Screenwriter. And the screenwriter we have today with us is Kim Hornsby. Hello, Kim. Thank you for being here with us.
Hi, Patrick. Thanks for asking me. I'm thrilled to be here on a cold Wednesday morning in the Pacific Northwest.
I see that background. It looks very nature-ish.
It is. It's a forest. I have 5 acres of forest here on this island off Seattle, and perfect place to write. But it's really, I don't know about LA, but it's really cold here right now. I'm sitting here in a jacket, and I'm actually thinking of turning on the heat today because it's not summer anymore here.
Wait. I'm confused because we're still in August. It gets cold in Seattle in August.
It's not supposed to, but yesterday I think it reached maybe 62 degrees, and it's probably trying to climb to that today. But yeah, it's just crazy. We're just having a crazy August. I just came back from Texas where it was like 107. You kind of ran from the air conditioning in the house to the air conditioning in the car because it was so unpleasant. So I don't know what's happened with our summer.
Hopefully, it gets a little bit warmer. But in the meantime, let's get into some screenwriting questions for you.
Yeah.
You ready? You ready?
Yep.
All
Okay.
right.
I'm ready.
Okay. Question number one: what are three screenplays every new writer should read, in your opinion?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think you should read in the genre or that you're writing. So if you are a thriller writer, you should read thrillers. If you're a rom-com writer, you should read rom-coms. Um, I don't know that I can name exactly three that every new writer should read, but I'll tell you some that I read at the beginning that are kind of very different from each other. I Because I write a lot of romance. I started as a romance novelist. Um, and there's a romance or a love story in everything that I write. I read anything that Nancy Myers wrote. Um, I read When Harry Met Sally. I read more modern kind of romance rom-coms. Then I kind of moved on to other things. I studied in a workshop setting. I studied the pacing and the writing of the movie Get Out by Jordan Peele. It's a really great movie to read and study because it's so beautifully done. And he did win an Oscar for writing that. So I think I'm in good company by thinking that that's a good one to start out with. I also think Thelma and Louise for characterization and pacing, and certainly, wrapping the audience around a finger is a good one. Um, I also believe Shawshank Redemption is another classic, beautifully written piece of screenwriting that any screenwriter can learn from. But then also look at some kind of different ones too, like A Quiet Place, which is, of course, there's very little dialogue because they have to be quiet or the aliens will get them. Um, and it's a quick script, but it's written in such a way that it makes a very interesting read. Um, Lots of action lines, very little dialogue. So that'll be something different in terms of reading. But yeah, if you're aiming to write suspense, then read suspense. Um, and it's always good to read out of your genre too, but definitely concentrate on the type of screenplays you are wanting to write. And now my dog is noisily drinking water from the water bowl there. So, Patrick, you're going to have to fuzz that out in the mix.
We'll fix it in post.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah. So I'd say, just try to try to read a variety and then concentrate on the genre that you want to that you want to write in, because that'll help you with pacing, and it'll help you know, uh, what's selling, especially if you're going for the Oscar winners, which you can find on Wikipedia, like, you know, um, anything like Fargo or, Lost in Translation, Weight of Water, that type of thing.
You mentioned like a lot of great screenplays, but there's two in particular you mentioned that I want to kind of like touch on a little bit. So I remember when I read A Quiet Place, right? The first film, I was reading that. I mean, like I think the first 5 pages, I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. I mean, like obviously there's no dialogue until I can't remember exactly until what page. I think about five
Long,
pages straight.
yeah.
It's just like scene description, and I'm like, oh, and then I was just so it was just like some wonderful writing. So that's a great one for sure.
Yeah, during the pandemic, those two guys, Beck and Woods, um, they did a like a Ask Me Anything kind of workshop on the writing of A Quiet Place. And so to prepare for that, we were supposed to read the screenplay. And it was just really fascinating to hear them talk about their process. They're filmmakers from like the Midwest, and they just decided, okay, we have access to Uncle somebody's farm. Let's write something that we can film at the farm, and because they were really low budget indie filmmakers, they decided to write something that would be really easy for them to produce. And of course, once not Jim, John
John
Krasinski,
Krasinski.
yeah, Jim in the office. Once
Yeah,
Jim and
yeah,
Pam got involved,
that's
once,
funny.
yeah,
Was Dwight in there too?
yeah, Dwight was in there too. I know his real name, Rainn Wilson.
Yes.
Once he got involved and pulled in the studio, then of course the budget got higher, you know. But that's a good script to read. I agree.
And then the other one you mentioned is my one of my all time favorite classics. So just like you, right? Romance. I love. I'm a huge sucker for like a romance. Like every screenplay that I've written, somehow I find a way to add a little bit of romance in there. So okay. So when Harry when Harry met Sally, right?
Yeah,
Oh, so okay. So I saw the film a long time ago, and obviously I love the film. It's a classic. And then just recently, I read the screenplay. I'm like, oh my God, like the screenplay is just as good as the movie. So,
it
sometimes
is.
it's rare where like, I mean, I'm reading, I'm like, oh my God, this is like, as I'm reading the screenplay, I'm thinking to myself, this is why the film is a classic because
I
the
agree.
screenplay is written so, oh yeah. So those are great choices.
Yeah, and funny as heck, and really the film turned out true to the magnificent screenplay. Another screenplay that I read that, people will say, "Did you see the movie?" And I'll say, "Yeah, I saw it," and then I'll remember, "No, I didn't see the movie. I just read the screenplay, but it was such a good screenplay." And I think it's called The Sound of Metal. It was about a drummer who
Yes.
lost his hearing. Yeah,
Yep.
and
I
it
read that.
was such a good screenplay. And I think I have seen the film, but to this day, I still haven't seen the film.
Yep, I agree with you. You know what? I could talk about screenplays like forever. So let me move on to the second question. All
Okay.
right. What is something a screenwriter will never learn in a book?
Oh, these are hard questions, Patrick. You should have given them to me before we had this
Ha 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 ha.
interview. Yeah. Oh, and then you're going to take over the world. Um, okay. Something that you don't learn in a book is, well, the books will tell you, especially the books on how to write a screenplay, the first couple of books that you read on how to write a screenplay, they will tell you about formatting and, keeping things perfect on the page. And of course, formatting is extremely important. But what you don't learn in a book is that you can play around a little bit. Once you get to be a good enough level writer, it's perfectly allowable for you to play around a little with formatting. So if you just want to drop down a line and put, boom, and then drop in a couple of indent a little more and another boom and drop down another boom, that type of thing, then that's kind of fun to have something unusual like that on the page for the reader. So they won't tell you to go outside the envelope. They will tell you at the beginning to stick in your lane, stay in your lane, and write, follow the rules and write the way every beginner screenwriter is supposed to write. But I think it's perfectly allowable to do a little fun stuff, on the page. And white space, having lots of white space on the page is really important. When I teach screenwriting, I tell my students to imagine that you're paying $5 for every word you have on the page. Or if you find that you're still writing too much narrative and not tightening it enough, then imagine it $100 for every word. Just really tighten up your descriptions, tighten up your dialogue, just make sure that everything on there needs to be there. They might tell you that in a book, but that's still, I like the white space. If someone is reading a script and they're turning pages quickly because there's white space, then that gives them the illusion that they're reading a page turner, that it's going quickly, that the pacing is good. And same when I write novels. I have 16 published novels, and I am a big fan of white space on the page. Write succinctly and give the reader lots of white space so they can turn pages quickly.
You know what? I like that advice about like $10 a word or $100. You know what? I'm gonna use that the next time I write.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, do I
Like,
have enough money for this page?
do I really have to say very hot, or should I just say sweltering? Right?
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 3. All right. So you might I know like I didn't give you these questions ahead of time, and
I'm
so
scared.
so
I'm
this
scared
one,
now.
yeah, this one might be a little tough. Okay, so what is the greatest character arc you've seen in a story?
Ah, you know, me and everybody else who writes screenplays, probably we all say the same one. It would have to be Walter White in Breaking Bad. I loved that character arc. It was the most fascinating thing to watch. And consequently, Saul's character arc, but in Better Call Saul,
Hmm.
um, you know, just brilliant, absolutely brilliant character arcs for both of those characters. I couldn't believe where we started and where they took us. With Walter White, high school teacher, gets bad news, wants to set up his family for when he's gone. Um, yeah, just really compelling.
You know what? As soon as you mentioned Walter White, I got goosebumps because of such an amazing, choice. So now, okay, to slightly jump off topic with that. Well, not really, but so at first in the beginning, I had a friend where I used to argue about where she would tell me that Walter White was the bad guy. And I was like, no, he's a good guy. So I was very torn about. I mean, obviously now I realize yes, he was the bad guy, but I mean, it goes to show how well he was written. The fact that I was like I was conflicted. So, what's your thoughts on that? I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, he was us, right? So when you watch a movie or you watch, a series, there's a character that the audience is going to sympathize with the most and be. And so we were Walter White, and they wrote, his choices towards the end. You say he was the bad guy, but he was still us. He was still the good guy, but he had made some really bad choices, and he had gotten caught up in all of this. to the point where he looked like the bad guy. And of course, no good guy is entirely good. They all have to, and no bad guy is entirely bad. They all have to have a mix. It's just that those two characters are working in opposition of each other for the duration of the story, right? So, with Walter White, he did take a fascinating turn, like the series You, about the serial killer. You know, he's horrific, but we are compelled to watch what's going on with him because it's like Barry or Dexter. We're compelled to watch what's going on with these people. We're hooked because we see the side of them that is good, and we're hoping they make a turnaround for themselves.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like watching Game of Thrones. There were so many characters in Game of Thrones, and POV changed all the time. And now you're in Westeros, and now you're at the wall, and that type of thing. But the one character in Game of Thrones who we sympathized the very, very most with was Tyrion, um, the small person brother.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tyrion.
he was comic relief, and God knows we needed a little comic relief watching
Mhm.
Game of Thrones. And he was more modern than everybody else. He said the things that we wanted to say. Um, so he was neither good guy nor bad guy. So good writing kind of has the character who we are going to become at the beginning, and then takes us on a journey to show us that no character is completely good or completely bad. And that's my
Yeah.
long-winded answer to that question.
No, it's a great answer. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right. Question number 4. What was the first screenplay you wrote, and what was that writing process like?
Okay, so as I was telling you before we started this interview, when we were just chit-chatting, I wrote about 6 to 8 books before I wrote a screenplay. I'm an author as well as a screenwriter. And uh, somewhere, like around the 6th book, um, I was trying to get a literary agent to take me on. And so I queried book agent, and it turned out she was getting out of books and into screenplays. And she came back and said, "Okay, I read this book, fascinating. Can you adapt it into a screenplay? Can you write a screenplay for it? Because I might have somebody that'd like to option this whole series." And so, of course, I never say no. I always say, "Sure, yeah, I can write a screenplay." I think I said to her, "Give me a month or two and I'll turn this into a screenplay." I was honest with her. And so, yeah, I adapted this book of mine. It's a kind of a supernatural mystery with a great romance thread throughout the whole series, a 5 book series. And I adapted the first book, The Dream Jumper's Promise. And we got it optioned, and it really looked like it was going to be made into a movie. But, as happens in the business, it fell out of option, and the company split up. And now it's optioned again. It's in development with another company, and we're hoping that we with me co-producing with the other producers, and we're hoping that we'll be able to film it in the spring. So fingers crossed on the Dream Jumper's Promise.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
thanks.
And
Yeah.
then that's amazing. So the first screenplay you ever wrote was an adaptation of your own book. That's like that's amazing.
Yeah, well, it was an easy way to go because I knew the characters inside out. I'd written 5 books about them. I knew the characters. I knew this story really well. So, like when I teach the adaptation from book to screenplay, and when
Mhm.
I talk to my students about adapting, I will say, you're 70% there if you wrote the book. All you need to do is to turn it into something visual. You know, think of it as a movie, not, on pages reading off your Kindle at night. So it was a lot easier than starting a screenplay from scratch. I had the story, I knew the inciting incident, I knew the tentpole moment in the center, I knew the dark night of the soul, so it was a fun process. And I think I wrote it in like 2 months, and then it got optioned by this producer.
Did you find it difficult to like translate, the words in the book? And I know 'cause you probably had to condense a lot of stuff, huh?
Oh,
Was it
so
tough?
much. Yes. And the method that I teach involves, let's take a look at your log line for this book. Let's take a look now at your blurb for this book. Let's write a treatment for this book, and let's just build up the screenplay from the treatment. Let's not go to the book unless you have particular dialogue you'd like to extract from the book, but so much is going to be left out. You cannot possibly, including characters. You can't, in most cases, you can't have all the characters in there, all of the scenes in there. Just choose the scenes, the parts of the story that are going to further the movie to get to the end. So, yeah, you have to leave a lot out. It's
Yeah.
heartbreaking. Kill
well,
your
at least,
darlings.
well, at least it's you that's leaving it out, not someone else, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. This is the final question. You ready?
Okay.
Th-
I'm
This might
ready.
be this might be the toughest one out of them all, but we'll see. I'll let you be the judge. Okay.
Okay.
So you get to plan and go on a hangout, non-romantic date with your current main character. What does that date look like?
Okay. Well, I just, in the last couple of days, I rewrote an old screenplay, a Christmas romance, um, and I rewrote it for a mandate that Roku had, and the producer sent it off this morning. So, if we're talking about the last screenplay that I touched as a screenwriter, it would be Merry Chris Match. And if I went on a
That's a
date,
great title, by the way.
thank you. Don't steal it. Don't
Nope,
steal it.
nope, nope.
Okay. Yeah, it hasn't been used yet. I was amazed. So the two main characters in the story, um, Gloria is a single mom, and she has a cochlear implant behind her ear. She has hearing loss from an infection she had in college, and so her kids are being teased at school for having a deaf mom, and um, she's trying to make Christmas perfect for them. So, am I going on a non-romantic date with her? Or would I go on a non romantic date with the hunk who lives two doors down, who is an engineer and has a business called Clean Water, and he and his partner try to clean up drinking water for uh, towns that have been compromised by flooding. Because he's pretty nice. I'd go on
How
a date
about
with.
this? I'm going to throw you a curveball then. How
Okay.
about uh, you're the third wheel?
Okay, on their date. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, still, I would find that interesting because I was really interested in her cochlear implant and how she navigates life as a single mom. She's a widow, and very interested in his benevolence with the Clean Water Project. So they're both really interesting people. So I think I would enjoy, we'd probably go for, I don't know, Mexican food because she's Spanish. Gloria
Okay.
Rodriguez. Yeah. So, and he eats everything. So we'd probably go for Mexican food, and I just watch them flirt and talk all through dinner.
Nice. So there wouldn't be any awkwardness of the third wheel, you know?
Oh, I'd have to excuse myself before dessert, just quietly drive away so that they could have a little privacy.
Nice.
Definitely. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
This has been 5 questions with Kim Hornsby. Kim, thank you so much for doing this with us.
You're
And
welcome. Thanks for asking me.
of course, of course. Now, I guess I was going to ask you: are you currently writing anything at the moment? So, are you working on this Merry Chris Match project?
It got sent off this morning, so it's done for now
Okay.
until a producer tells me, to make the rewrites. Let's hope Roku picks it up. Um, and what am I working on? I'm actually working on a little novella for Christmas. As a published author, if you Google me and you look me up on Amazon Books, you'll see that the books that are my most successful, I have like one Christmas book in a box set of 10 with a lot of other authors. And so those box sets are the ebooks that make me the most money. So I'm working on a little novella right now, but always thinking. I like to stack projects so that I could be at the end of one, the middle of another, thinking about another one. So thinking process is as much to me as the actual fingers on the keys, either plotting to the nth degree before I actually give myself permission to write the screenplay page. So I spend a lot of time thinking about how I'm going to do this and who the characters are. So what I'm working on right now, Patrick, nothing. I've just been doing rewrites I just finished a super fast. I wrote it in 4 days and then I rewrote it as per the producer's notes in another 4 days. Super fast. Trying to think what it was now because when you write them that fast, you don't remember what they are. Oh, yeah, I know. I was writing a screenplay for Toni Braxton, hoping that she would like this story enough because I heard she's looking for a Christmas romance. And so we got the mandate from her production company, what she wanted. And so I wrote one, and I thought it was super cute. And it was called, I just wrote it like 2 weeks ago and I can't even remember. Oh, I'm not even going to tell you because it's such a good title. I already told you my other title.
You and those titles, I'm telling you.
Yeah,
How you
yeah,
do it?
for the Christmas ones. It's a
Yeah.
really cute title. And I thought on the title alone, she would want this. But apparently she didn't want it. So I found out. But once I write a screenplay and I'm head down for 12 hours a day, for 8 days solid, then I don't even think about writing anything for a while. So I'm not even thinking about it right now.
All right. And then let me ask you this then. What's a recent TV show or film you've watched that you would recommend to our viewers?
Ooh, I watched a really good film that was an indie film that was called East Bay. And one of my screenwriter friends had a part in it. It's this guy looking for the meaning of life. He lives in East Bay, San Francisco area. And it's kind of like Everything Everywhere All at Once, but not as crazy. Just trying to figure out who he is, and he's on a hockey team. It was a beautiful, funny, quirky little indie film. I really liked it. And then I also watched recently a film called Your Lucky Day on Netflix, and it is about a lottery ticket. Um, it's a convenience store robbery, a winning lottery ticket, and what would you do if everybody? I'm trying to think if everybody, uh, if you got to have the lottery ticket, but had to split it with everybody else that witnessed your robbery in this convenience store. It was really, it's kind of a gritty kind of thriller, Your Lucky Day, and really Really good film. I loved it. So those are two that I'd recommend.
All right,
So they're
awesome.
not romances, though, are they? No.
It's all right. Sometimes you need like a thriller here and there, to get your adrenaline going.
Yeah. I watch a lot of thrillers, and I write thrillers too. And they always have a romance in them. But yeah, Your Lucky Day and East Bay, they were great.
All right, all right. Kim, this is it. Thank you so much for doing this with me. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewers? Where can we get your books?
Oh, Amazon, Kim Hornsby. You can Google me. I'm everywhere on the internet. Amazon books, ebooks, and print books. Also, I have a movie coming out in a couple of months, a family movie called Braving Rapids. It's about a river rafting trip with a family. A little girl who finds a wolf cub on a river rafting trip and has to give it up at the end of the trip. Um, and then yeah, and anything else I have in development, just keep follow me on Twitter, and you'll see when I have a movie out. I've got a couple of things in the works. So, yeah, thanks for having me.